Todd and August here in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Hershey.
Yeah, really cool. We're at the
home of the Bears Den.
Yeah, so if you hear the music, we're at their bar. They're a minor league hockey team, just a really cool place. But we don't get to lecture very often together because we're all on our own schedule. So
yeah, this is cool.
Thought we'd have a beer and just talk a little bit about where dentistry is today, especially modern dentistry. And so, you know, we spent a lot of time in Germany almost 2 years ago now interviewing all those printing companies. How do you think it's changed since a year and a half? Because it moves so fast.
Yeah, it's really changed. I think that when we were at the IDS, 3D printing was just starting to kind of get a hold, and some of the big companies like Straumann and E40 guys, what are they called?
Plan Mecca.
Plan Mecca.
Yeah.
Those Plan Mecca guys were coming out with their own printer too, and it was all new and kind of weird. Now it's become a little more mainstream,
right?
And now we're seeing sort of the deficiencies within dentistry and how companies are addressing that, coming out with faster printers, with more durable resins, and some companies even dropping the price of their resins, which is pretty interesting.
I mean, you know way more than I do, but what I've seen just from your posts and everything is how much the cost is dropping down on the resin systems, and there are more indications for it. So, like, what are you seeing right now that are like brand new the last few months?
Yeah, the latest sort of push of 3D printing companies is to come out with printable dentures. Flippers. There's a company that actually has a Valplast filament that they can print in Valplast. We're seeing a lot with the sintering realm, so powder-based.
No, I got it.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
Powder-based 3D printers that print in zirconia powder, titanium powder, nylon. So we're looking at printers that are hopefully going to directly print aligners. So we don't have to go through the process of pressure forming models.
So when you say going to, like, what is the window of all of this happening?
You know, I don't know. Formlabs, who makes the Form 2 printer, is in the process of releasing one called the Fuse. And the Fuse prints currently just in black nylon, so certainly not a ideal color for an aligner. But because it's nylon, it's very resilient. They make bike pedals out of it. And so I can see them coming with a clear material in probably in the next year or two. Yeah. I mean, it's not that big of a stretch to print clear nylon. Yeah. And so if we can get a company that can print in nylon, we can get rid of the models and the messiness of traditional printing.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, that's one of the things that's distracted me about printing, because it's messy.
It's gross.
Yeah,
it's
and wearing
nasty.
the gloves and the resin and everything, it gets people unmotivated to print. So you kind of have to kind of force yourself into doing it. So what makes the nylon printing method different than the resins?
Well, it's a resin-based printer is basically doing what we do in dentistry all the time, which is using flowable composite and a UV curing light. We're limited by the air-inhibited layer, just like we are in regular dentistry. And so these powder-based printers use powder to support an object. So one thing that a lot of people don't know about 3D printing is the 3D printed object is fairly squishy and weak. It's maybe 90% printed. So we need to support it with this basket of little supports. Powder-based printing, you don't have to worry about supports. It just a laser shoots in and it will sinter the zirconia, the titanium, the nylon, and we don't have to worry about trimming off supports.
Now, are there any printers right now that can do that?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
So
there's a printer called Sinterit in Europe, and then the Fuse one, and then more expensive nylon based. We just don't have the materials yet.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So as far as like in the last year, how would you say is the advancement in the equipment? Because I mean, how many printers do you own, man?
I sold like 5 of them, so I'm down to 7, which makes me sound really dorky, doesn't it?
Less dorky.
Yeah, less dorky. But right now I think I have 7 printers. I have 2 Moonrays in a Form 2, and I use those all day long. And then my other printers I use for different indications. If I want to make a Night Guard and the other ones are taken up, I can use one of these other printers.
So of those printers that you've got, I mean, isn't the equipment changing so quickly?
They're getting faster.
Okay.
And
so what does fast mean in the dental printing world?
Yeah,
fast.
currently right now, if I want to print a couple of models on a Moonray printer, will take me about an hour. On a Formlabs printer, will take me 2 to 3 hours. There's a process called CLIP, which stands for Continuous Liquid Interface Procedure or Printing.
Clip.
Or yeah,
Just
CLIP. Or CDML if you want to get really technical. Basically, what it does is it grows a model out of the vata composite without going through this thing called the lift process. So we're looking at models in 15 minutes or less. And that could be a plate of models containing 6 models in 15 minutes. So that's kind of where I think a lot of the companies are heading.
Now, are those type of printers going to be $50,000? Are they going to be $5,000? What are we looking at?
Well, I got a rumor from a company that I know and respect.
Let's keep it as a rumor.
Let's keep it as a rumor.
Yeah.
$6,000 is what they're going for.
About that range.
Yeah. So currently, right now, clip printers are about 20 to up to 40,000 a year in lease.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you'll be able, I think, within the next year or two, to buy a clip-based printer for about $6,000.
So explain what that lift procedure means exactly, because that was one of the things that when I had failures at printing, I could see as it was happening. I think it was lifting too much or something.
Well, if you think about how 3D prints are made, they're made with like 300 different layers. And what happens is you got a vat of flowable composite. You've got a build plate that comes down and rests just about 100 microns or 20 microns above the bottom of the vat. Mm-hmm. It cures a layer that will hopefully stick to the metal and not to the bottom of the vat. After one layer, it has to peel that layer off the bottom of the vat. And so because of this clip process, just to get all scientific on you, they actually pump oxygen into the vat to separate that.
I see.
And so to cause an air inhibited layer underneath each layer. And so because it doesn't have to go through this up and down process, it speeds things up really quick.
So do you think in the next year or two we're going to get narrowed down to like a couple of printers? Because right now
it's all over the place.
It's all over the map.
Yeah.
How many are? I mean, there's too many to count.
3D printing is an umbrella term for 16 different processes. There's chocolate printers. There's printers that print wood.
In Hershey. I
bet you they have a chocolate printer. They have frosting printers. They have printers that make houses. So we have different types of technologies. And right now it's all over the place. So within the next year, I think you'll see kind of a camp between the DLP-based printers and the sintering-based or powder-based printers. FDM, which is the coolest looking printer, which prints, basically it's a hot glue gun on steroids. I think FDM will always be around. Its limitations are not great for dentistry. I think the best FDM printer can print at a 100 micron resolution, which is not bad, but I think that we can do better with the different systems. I think in the next few months you'll see more of the clip-based printers coming out. I think in the next year or two more of the powder-based printers coming out. I think Formlabs just announced they've really slashed the prices of their resins. So one thing that's going on right now is that resins are, hey, cool.
We're eating lunch.
We're eating, thanks. It's a working lunch. Resins are really expensive, and a company called NextDent manufactures most of the resins we've used. And a number of companies have rebottled those NextDent resins. NextDent just announced that they're coming out with their own printer, which has freaked out.
Oh my gosh.
All the other printer companies. 3D Systems, if you don't know about 3D Systems, they pretty much invented 3D printing, and they're a I'm sure, billion-dollar company. And so these other companies got a little freaked out because they thought, well, okay, they may want to corner the market, take the next-gen resins off the market. And so companies like Formlabs have worked to formulate their own resins.
As they should, because that would make sense for them to do that.
And as a result, they've dropped the price on a number of their resins. So I think you'll see the cost of resins dropping. The price of printers are probably going to stay about the same. I don't know how cheap they can go.
Well, they got to make their money somehow, so they can't make them too cheap.
You're just going to see faster printers and higher quality printers.
One last question, then we're going to eat.
Yeah,
we got to go. So as far as dental materials for final material, forget dentures and all that. Like, what is your opinion on that and where that's going to be?
Well, this I'll probably eat my words. But one beef I have with people really kind of trying to force the final restoration on a 3D printed object is, what did we do forever in dentistry? We stacked porcelain, right? And we thought stacked porcelain, that's great stuff, but we found porosity and problems stacking porcelain on zirconia based on the layer upon layer approach,
good
right?
point.
Then a couple, maybe 5-10 years ago, everything was monolithic, right? Emax, zirconia, one big hunking chunk of material. By definition, 3D printing incorporates layers. So I still see the two camps, CNC, CAD-CAM, and 3D printing existing together.
Just for different aspects.
I think if you're plastic, stone, 3D printing is the way to go. But for final restoration, I think it still needs to be milled.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us today. August and I, we got to eat. Yeah, we got a lecture here in about 15 minutes, but I highly suggest if you're ever in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, you got to come to the Hershey Lodge. It's so fun.
I love it. The carpet here is sublime.
The carpet is probably covered in chocolate everywhere.
It's pretty Vegas.